Done. So give you a little bit background about this presentation. So I'm Emily Jiang. So I'm a Java champion. I'm also configure code spec lead, and I work for IBM. I'm the Liberty architect for MicroProfile and CDI. So in the past couple years, I worked on MicroProfile, and also I took in the conferences. A lot of people came to me and asked me questions about, in compare to Spring, what are the differences? So hence today's talk. So it's who is creating microservices at the moment? Okay, great. So it's who are Spring developers here? Okay. Who are Java EE developers? Okay, good. So it's hopefully give you a little bit level set. So hopefully it's like I talk between Spring and MicroProfile. If you know Spring, and it will be very easy for you to get some understanding of MicroProfile. With some demo and etc., hopefully at the end of this session, you know pretty much what MicroProfile is about and know where to get started, etc. If you are a Java EE developer, likewise, you can quickly move towards MicroProfile to do your microservices. So let's step back to ask ourselves, why do we care about microservices? So it's 15 years ago or 10 years ago, and we all, operated on the waterfall model. Basically, you go through the requirement gathering, analyze, and then development, and then testing, integration, and production. Normally, it will take about a few months or year or a couple years for your product to be released. But by the time it's released, and the requirement is no longer required. So requirement is no longer the requirements, and the customer no longer want this kind of software anymore. So that means this software is a failure. So that's why we think, okay, we just ask ourselves, what we have done wrong? That's because we're too slow. We're too slow. So it's too slow to the market. We need a faster process. So that's why we go to Agile. So who is using Agile at the moment? Okay, great. Pretty much most of you. And then with Agile, and then we can finish our product very often, like a couple weeks time. And then you give it to DevOps and put in production. So that means you have a new requirement for DevOps to put the software to production in a timely manner. And also, with the frequent upgrade, that place a requirement on the hardware. Luckily, cloud came to rescue. So it's cloud. The beauty with cloud is you only pay for the software, the hardware you need whenever you need it. And then we have all the infrastructure and the methodology in place. And then we step back to think, okay, all the teams still work together for the single product. And then even one line change, and then so many people still get involved and negotiate timing and etc. Are we doing the right thing? Probably not. So that's why there's a need for chop the software or the big monoliths into smaller modular pieces. That is what we call microservices. So with microservice is nothing too fancy. It's just a smaller piece of code to do one single thing. So that, like a big, for example, all of us work together for one bigger product. And now, like 2 or 3 people work together for a single modular service. So it's you have less negotiation, less argument to do. That is microservices. So, okay, we're all trying to do microservices. Are there any good programming model for us to do so? So at the moment, there are 2 popular programming model on offer. One is Spring, which has been around for more than 10 years. Can we show hands again who are using Spring? Okay. So hopefully, by the end of this session, let me know whether you think his MacroProfile is easy to learn. Okay. So who knows the MacroProfile already? Okay, cool. Who has heard of MacroProfile? Okay. Good. So yeah, as I said, okay, with some Spring technology and etc., hopefully it's very easy to get started with MacroProfile. Since it's, not many people know about MacroProfile, I'll give you a quick intro about MacroProfile. MacroProfile is a completely open community. So it's for people come together to collaborate, to evolve the programming model for doing microservices. It's trying to optimize Java for a microservice architecture. So it was started in the second quarter of 2016 by IBM, Red Hat, Payara, Tommy Tribe, LGC, and some individuals. And soon, shortly afterwards, and there's more companies like Oracle, like Microsoft, they all joined MacroProfile community. And last year at Oracle Code One, we won the Duke Award. Duke's Choice Award. I was quite excited. At that time, I was at the MicroProfile BOF session, and then people came to the room and said, "I'll tell you what, we won the award." I was really, really happy. So MicroProfile is, as I said, is completely open source and driven by the community. Every one of you is welcome to join the community and ask questions, fill in your requirement, and etc. So we all work together and trying to establish the best programming model for doing Java-based microservices. And all the APIs, TCKs, and specs are completely open source. They are all in Apache versions 2 license. These are completely free, and there's no reference implementation, which is different from Java EE, because we do not want to differentiate one implementation from others. All the implementations are equal when it comes to implement a MacroProfile. Obviously, they can differentiate themselves in the performance and some other easy to use and etc., some other features. And we release very fast. We have a really frequent release. Now we release 3 times a year. So this is the kind of, in the past 2 years, this is how MacroProfile has evolved. Since like October 2016, we have adopted 3 key specifications from Java EE: CDI, JAX-S, and JSON-P. And then we quickly created 8 brand new specifications. And in February this year, we released MacroProfile 2.2. So here is a quick bird's eye view of what's in MacroProfile. At the bottom, we borrowed from Java EE, like CDI, JAX-S, JSON-P, and JSON-B. And the blocks in blue they are all brand new specifications for doing the microservices. Like personally, I lead the config and fault tolerance and another spec called service mesh. So config is the first MicroProfile specification. With the config specification, set up the standard, all the rest specification follow the similar format. So we evolved really fast. And also we have 21 component releases, which component release means each spec released separately, call it component releases. So in MacroProfile, we have a number of implementations for you to choose from. In IBM, we have WebSphere Liberty. Anyone know WebSphere Liberty? Okay, great. That's a really good is a fast performance application server. And also we open sourced a couple of years ago. It's called Open Liberty. Anybody know Open Liberty? Okay, cool. Very good. So if you do not know Open Liberty, please Google for it, openliberty.io. It has great, good materials for you to learn and for you to try it out. And then also Red Hat has a small RAI and has a Songtail and a small RAI. Earlier today, Peter from Red Hat demonstrated Quarkus, which is a very fast runtime, also based in the MicroProfile. We utilize a small RAI. And also Payara and Tommy Tribe has Tommy EE and Cumulus EE and etc. So it's a lot for you to choose from. Okay, so that is a quick intro about MicroProfile. I want to give you a quick comparison between Spring and MicroProfile, and bear in mind with the term of the microservices, what capabilities you need and what kind of functionality you need from this two programming model. So it's for these three categories. It's REST APIs and handling 100 services and also operation. So for Spring, like a REST service, you use a Spring MVC. For MicroProfile, you use JAX-RS. And for the dependency injection, for Spring, you use the inversion control and dependency injection. For MicroProfile, you use CDI. For API documentation in Spring, you use REST docs. In MicroProfile, you use MicroProfile Open API, which is based on the Swagger API. Anybody know Swagger API? Okay, if you know Swagger API, you are there. So for the transformation, the data transformation on the wire, in Spring, you use normally the popular one is the Jackson. Bring your own library. In MicroProfile, we use JSONB and JSONP. So for handling services for the configuration, basically it's in the 12-factor app. Anybody know 12-factor app? Okay, if you do not know, and Google Online say 12-factor app, when you do microservices, you should know the concept of 12-factor app. One of the very important factor is externalize your configuration. So Spring has, this is the configuration exactly to fulfill that requirement. So Spring has a Spring boot config and cloud config. MicroProfile has a MicroProfile config. Building the resilience microservices, Spring use histories. As you know, earlier today is Netflix is kind of put a histories onto the maintenance mode, right? So you need to consider that. And MicroProfile has MicroProfile for tolerance. For security, Spring has Spring security and Spring Cloud security. MicroProfile has Java EE security plus JWT propagation. So for operation focus, like a health check, so basically this is thinking when you deploy your microservice in the cloud, you have to, normally you operate on the Kubernetes. You need to tell the Kubernetes whether the pod is healthy or whether the pod is still alive or ready. So you use a health check. So in Spring, you use the Spring Boot actuator. MicroProfile, we have a health check. For metrics, Spring similarly use a Spring Boot actuator. MicroProfile has MicroProfile metrics. For the distributed tracing, which is used to connect, to trace back the invocations, like service A call B, B then call C, and use this distributed tracing functionality so you can trace from beginning to the end. Spring uses Spring Cloud Sleuth, and MicroProfile has open tracing. Okay, in the next few slides, I will just quickly go down to the code, like show you some snippet code, and then I will do a quick demo. So for the rest, so you know, if you know Spring already, you have a Spring Boot application and you have a regular, so standard MVC. For MicroProfile, so you have defined the application path here, the application, and you declare JAX resources. So it is a get operation, and this is a kind of directory operation. So this is a kind of with the code snippet here. So the first, you define the application path, this class. The second class, you define your JAX resources. And this is only dealing with the first microservice. Basically, when you create your first microservice, you think about REST. Yeah, REST. You just create an application, create a REST, JAX REST resources. And then you got thinking, okay, even within my single microservice, I need to make sure it's loosely coupled inside. So what do you do with what can you achieve this? You use dependency injection. So in Spring, here you do this is Spring Boot application. You do auto-wire to inject them. Yeah, inject them. And in MicroProfile, you use CDI. So directly, if you do not know CDI, so auto-inject is very powerful. It's equivalent to auto-wire. So basically, CDI will give you an instance and directly inject to the variables. So this is a quick example there. So in this example, CDI will give you a system client instance directly injected to the system client variable for your inventory manager. Okay, by now you have created your first microservice. Okay, it's the REST service, and the inside is loosely coupled. So far, so good. Okay, how if you want to like advertise yourself, obviously you need to tell external world because there's so many little microservices. You need to advertise yourself. What kind of capability do you have? So you need to document it. So it's how can I document it? In Spring, it's kind of the test. I'm sorry for this slide. It's very busy. For Spring, it's the kind of it uses test-based kind of methodology to document your API. So you add the dependency, and then you define the REST service. You write test, and then you use some like a method to document it. And then you do the Maven clean install and then generate the doc. For MicroProfile, as I've mentioned earlier, that's based on Swagger API. You directly to use some files, YAML files as input, or you can use JAX endpoint and annotations to automatically aid you to generate the documentation. So in this example here, so here I can add the OpenAPI annotations here. And then when I go to the, when I install the, when I start my microservice, if you go to the endpoint / open API, and then you will get this input, this display here. And then in Open Liberty, if you do we have value add extra service. If you go to the / open API / UI, you can see the very nice displayed this UI version, and then you can directly invoke it. Okay, so this is Open API. So up to now, you have created the first microservice. Now you are thinking, okay, I need to call into another microservice. So for connect this service, you use the REST client. So in Spring, you use the MVC and plus the FAIN client. So basically, in this is directly the client, and then you directly inject somewhere this place you want to call this client. In MicroProfile, you directly declare this client, use register REST client, and then you directly inject that client into the caller, right? So here is the example here again. So for MicroProfile, you define the client over there, and then you inject your client, and then you need to bind the client. So where is the backend is at? So you use this property to directly bind it. So up to now, you know how you define your own service, and then you are able to call another service. And then now you need to think, okay, over the wire, what kind of data format can I support? You can do either string or JSON-P or JSON-B. So in Spring, you can directly use Jackson, or you can use JSON-B as well. And in MacroProfile, we directly use JSON-B or JSON-P. So this is in MacroProfile, if you directly declare the class, the type, data format, and then you can directly say at get and then produces this JSON format, will be fine. Okay, so now I'll give you a quick demo. So let's see here. So I have 2 microservices here. I see okay. Okay, bigger. So this is a very simple microservice. So here I have microservice B. So you can see this application. So application path, and then I define my Ajax as resources. I have to do a path and this and then get. So now it's up running. Save time. I can go to. If I do 90 localhost, so as you can see, it can directly do the hello, right? So now I want to see is what's in my this service. So what kind of functionality does this service offer me? So I can do Open API. See, it'll give me the display. So tell me, oh, it's the operation hello, and then it's the kind of, this is the default description, and it's a string. And then I can also do UI. So you will directly see this get operation, and you can try it out. So in this version, if I go back, that's my 12-factor app B, right? Now I've figured out what the B looks like, and then in my 12-factor app A, I directly call app B. So how can I make sure I can directly call it? So the first thing is I create a register REST client. So I know it's a hello and return a string is a get operation. I just create that. And then in the endpoint, in my own microservice, I directly inject it. So like that. And then in my get operation, I can directly display what's in B, right? And then I bind it. When I bind it, I directly specify the property in my configuration file. I say, okay, this is the end URL. One thing I would like to mention, this is the property. And if you deploy this application, microservice in the cloud, you can directly overwrite this value. For example, in the Kubernetes, you can use the config map. Let's see, it's up running at the moment. Let's go back here. So I know sometimes it's not working on purpose. So I can see I can call this one without any problem, and also I can see my my own microservice, the open API. So I have a core service B and return a Spring, return a string. And then this is my UI. And then if I want do a better coding here, and I can directly add more things, add more descriptions in my endpoint. For example, I want to have a better description of what I'm doing. I can directly do this. Let's go back. I see here is automatically displayed. So this is the beauty of Open Liberty. Directly compile the code and then directly serve to the URL. So dynamic update. So now you know a bit about Open API and also the JAX. Let's carry on with our other aspect. So now we have a couple of microservices and etc. And the next thing you need to consider how to make sure the microservice you have built performed well, and also build once, run everywhere. So you need better to configure it. So externalize your configuration. So in Spring, you use the Spring config. So on the top, you can specify in the property in the Elasticsearch, and then you can use the properties and use the prefix Elasticsearch and directly inject the properties there. In MacroProfile, and you can do a get config, and also you can do a config.get value, or you can use direct injection @inject config property Elasticsearch underscore URL to directly inject it. So this is the config. And the next thing you need to, okay, this is kind of, you can build a microservice, build once, run everywhere. The next one is you want to build a really bulletproof microservice. So basically, even though your backend is not performing, and you are still performing. So basically, you can return the 100% success. So at any given time, at any given situation. So you do not want to code up yourself. You need to use some infrastructure help, some third-party libraries. So fault tolerance directly solves that problem for you. So in Spring, you use the history command, and you can specify like a fallback. And then you can specify the circuit breaker on the left. And in MacroProfile, we directly like create all the annotations like a fallback, a circuit breaker, bulkhead, and also timeout, and etc. So this is all annotation based. You directly just add to your backend, to your endpoint. So this is how it works in MicroProfile. So in this example, it gives you a fallback option. So you can directly specify the fallback method. If this operation failed, it will directly call the fallback forget this method. Okay. So the next one you need to consider how to secure your microservices. So basically, your particular operation, like for example, you are creating a finance a microservice. You want to check a balance. However, that balance, you will only want the person who owns that account to be able to check that balance, right? So you need to think about how to secure that endpoint. So in Spring, you can use the enable web security. And also, you can directly inject JWT config, security config, and etc. In MacroProfile, and you can use MacroProfile JWT propagation. So you can inject the JSON web token and can see what's in the JSON. And also, it worked very well with Java EE security. You can continue use declare roles, means only these roles are able to access this endpoint and etc. Okay, so this is an example of the MicroProfile JWT. It uses roles allowed. And then you can directly the JWT pass through and automatically carry this row information. And then the MicroProfile JWT runtime automatically check this JWT token and say, oh, okay. So if your admin is okay, this person is allowed to use to invoke this operation, will reach a good response. Otherwise, we will reject the call. So okay, let me go back to do a quick demo again. If I can. Oh no. Cannot see the end show. Okay, let's go back here. As you have observed previously, and sometimes my calling is not working. So here, like so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? So I need to make sure my microservice is resilient. So what can I do? I use MicroProfile for tolerance. I can directly say, okay, I want to retry it. Right? So that's all I did. Now I go back. Can you see? Did you notice? Now it's 41. Keep looking. Here's the count 41, right? Now it's 42. Now it's 43. Yeah, look at 43. Now it's 45. So you didn't see 44. Why? It's because 44 failed. It directly retried it, and then you get 45. So this is how retry worked. So it's this is fault tolerance. And the other things that you can directly inject some properties. So in here, I have a property username. So I can inject into my microservice. I can print out I can say, what's your username? And then I can see save it. Now I go back. See, it has hello Steve. So the other things Open Liberty does is we have server.xml, which is by default is kind of is dynamic. So it's also is AutoBox is dynamic config source for us, for me. So if I do this one, so it's here is the username, and if here I say, when I say RG. So this dynamic server.xml has a higher priority than others. So now, if I refresh, go back to here, it says hello RG. So basically, one thing I want to say is all the config sources are layered. So they have priorities. So by default, we have MicroProfile-config.properties, which has a priority 100, and then system properties and the environment variables. And also in Open Liberty, we have server.xml. And you can plug in your own config source, like a Zookeeper, for example, you can plug in. So this is the config and fault tolerance. Let's go back to the slides again. Okay, now we think we have done all the application, all the microservices. Now we deploy to the cloud, to the Kubernetes, and to Istio, for example. And then we need to figure out, okay, we need to communicate with the infrastructure. Is my microservice good enough? Is it performing well? Is that ready? Can I receive a request now? You need a health check. So in Spring, you use the Spring Boot actuator. So this is not new to many of you. In MacroProfile, we use MacroProfile Health. So it's you directly implement the health check. And then because nowadays Kubernetes is dominating, so anybody know Kubernetes? Okay, cool. Kubernetes has like a health readiness and liveness probe. It's directly can do HTTP get flavored. So you directly just pass in the HTTP URL, the slash health URL to Kubernetes. Kubernetes every so often configure the time period will query to see whether you are ready or you are still alive. Okay, this is a health check. The other thing is how good your microservice is performing in the cloud. So you need some metrics data. So in Spring, again, you can use the Spring actuator. You inject a counter service. Profile, we have MicroProfile annotations like timed, counted, counted, and metered. So, and then is you can gather more information about what's the response time for a particular operation. How many times this operation has been invoked, for example. And then you can produce a graph. You can put this data in the Grafano to produce a chart. Okay, so earlier I mentioned microservices together, they will communicate with each other. Maybe all of us are microservices. We all come together to build a whole application. This is like a spider web. It's you have no clue. One request, I don't know which is the end. So you need to correlate the hops together. So that's why you need open tracing. In Spring, you use the class to directly configure on the class path. On MacroProfile, you use open tracing. So MacroProfile open tracing, one beauty is automatically correlate all these trees headers for JAX-IS invocations. If you are doing a JAX-IS, you do not need to do anything. This is all the trees span will be automatically correlated. So if I invoke, if I'm the requester, I invoke you, or you invoke him, and we all connected together. So it's behind the scene, and all the trees span is correlated. Okay, this is the kind of all the information we need for the cloud performance and etc. Let me have quickly demonstrate to you about the metrics. So in this one, like this microservice here, is I know this endpoint 9080 demo A. If I go to the /metrics, it automatically give me all the class loading information and memory usage and etc. And this is all AutoBox is automatically give me this information without needing to do anything. What if I want to add more information here? Like for this particular operation, so I want to collect some more information on this method. I save it. Now I invoke this operation, right? So if I do the application, give me a lot of metrics, like per second is per second was a response, and also the success rate, and also it give me all the fault tolerance the information as well. How many retries have you done like that? So it's tell me actually you have done one retry, and you don't have any particular failures and etc. This is all very easy to use, and you can export in the Prometheus form or JSON format. Okay, that's kind of the metrics. And then you can even look at the health endpoint. Oh. So by default, it's always say up, and then you can directly implement a health check interface. Let me see whether probably I can quickly create one. Let me see, new class. So I do a health check. Oh, superclass interface. It's already there. Finish. So you can do you can see the names, service A, so with data. If I can type, and see lifetime. And see up, build. Okay. To S. See, you can see automatically get the data out. Okay, that's for the open tracing, the automatically trace. I don't need to do anything. Okay, let's go back to the slides again. So here is the perspective. So the quickly comparison between Spring and MicroProfile. Basically, actually, I want to say is that this is not my own perspective. It all goes through a special experiment by IBM Blue Computing, and they wrote a theory blog post. But previously, a few years ago, there was a big application called Blue Computing, and was developed by using Spring. Now they convert using MicroProfile. This is what they wrote. This is what the journey like. So basically, is you now have the freedom to choose which programming models you need. For the enterprise, developers, you are free to and very easy to move to the MicroProfile. And Liberty support both Spring and MicroProfile, and obviously favors MicroProfile and Java EE technology. And MicroProfile and Jakarta EE all under Eclipse Foundation. They complementary to each other and evolved very fast. And for Spring and MicroProfile, they are comparable. So it's really, really cool. And MicroProfile and Jakarta EE are quite lightweight. And it's ready, it's a standard, de facto standard. So here is the observation. For the API, so it's a MicroProfile, it's open source, driven by community, open standard, and you have less code because all the APIs is provided by the runtime. There's no libraries for you to carry around. It's very good for the cloud because you only need to push a few kilobytes instead of some megabytes. And also the runtime provide essentially everything you need. You can build a thin jar and skinny jars. A thin wall is not a fat jar. So where do you get started? So you can get started. We have a start.macroprofile.io because I have a template, earlier demo. And then Liberty has openliberty.io and /guide. I still have a few minutes. Let me give you a quick demo about start.macroprofile.io. Okay, going here. So here is the MicroProfile starter. So you can choose which MicroProfile release you want, and then you can choose which server you want. Here I can choose Open Liberty, and then you download. So you can directly open it up. So here is all the POM and all the files are generated here. Actually, I have the before this talk, I also already downloaded one. So I did a Maven clean install, and then in my target dir, and I have this jar. So demo.jar, right? Can you see? And then I can do a java -jar demo.jar. I can start. Now, if I go back here, is listen to the 8181. So this is a hello world. And it has the open API and etc. So it's so that's the starter. If you just can directly choose any runtime you need. Obviously, Open Liberty is my choice. The other thing is in Liberty, we can support the Spring Boot application as well. So if you want directly use Open Liberty for your Spring Boot application, and you can directly we have a guide, and in this project here, so it's so we can run the Spring Boot. So applications, you can still, this is the only change you need. You no longer do a main method, you do a Spring Boot servlet initializer. So it's, and then you create the Liberty server XML and etc. So that's kind of quick overview about this microservice programming model comparison. So as I mentioned earlier, all this experience and etc. based on this blog. So the first link, so migrate Java microservice from Spring to MicroProfile. These theories is talk each individual technology in great detail with very good explanation. So I really highly recommend you to check it out. And also there's also MicroProfile.io has really good information about the whole MicroProfile, the effort and also the programming model and the specifications. Also, the Open Liberty has Open Liberty IO.guide. And it will tell you how to use each individual MicroProfile technologies and etc. Let me quickly show you that. If you go to MicroProfile OpenLiberty.io. So here, it's if you type in MicroProfile, it has all the MicroProfile guides for you to learn. Each guide only takes about 20-15 minutes. Okay, with that, I think that's the end. By the way, next Thursday next week, if you Google online, I will do a talk on for Eclipse under Eclipse Foundation about what's current in MicroProfile, what's coming. So I want to talk about the current technology and also look at what's beyond the current. So hope to see you there as well. Probably I have one more, a couple minutes for questions. Any questions? Yeah.
Log aggregation? Sorry. My question is about the Open Liberty. Does it have some kind of support for generating the logs in a format that can be understood by any log aggregation system, like let's say the Logstash, Kibana, Elasticsearch, or FluentD, or something? Because I saw a certain direction in Wildfly to have some kind of logging in JSON format and stuff. Because I noticed the tracing capabilities, but also sometimes you're interested to aggregate the logs for all the instances of all the pods and everything. Does OpenLiberty have, or is there like a plan to include in the MicroProfile some specification regarding pure on logging?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Yeah, currently the Open Liberty has a great logging facility, and you can directly put to the log stash. Actually, afterwards, one of my colleagues did an experiment using Open Liberty for the bigger application called Stock Trader. He collected these logs and directly input into the log stash and etc. It's performed well. Yeah, I connected with you afterwards. Yes. One more question, I think. Any more? Okay. So, do you think a MacroProfile is easy to use? Yeah? You want to try it out, hopefully? Okay, great. Hope to see you in the future. And if you have any questions, follow me on Twitter or find me online and ask. Thank you.